movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, the podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. Just before we jump into this episode, I wanted to give a couple of quick disclaimers. The first one being my apologies for the somewhat long delay between last episode of Quiz Lady and this episode. I had my wisdom teeth removed a couple of days ago from the time that I am recording this episode. So I had a little bit of downtime where I wasn't really watching anything and certainly was not in a position to record anything. So if I sound a little bit weird in this episode or I'm talking a little bit slower, which is probably the case, that would be why. Second disclaimer is I will not be covering the Marvels. I think that I've been pretty clear on some of my previous episodes that I'm not the biggest MCU fan, and I did not watch Captain Marvel, so I was not particularly interested in seeing the Marvels, and from what I'm seeing, it's probably not something that I would enjoy anyway. It doesn't seem like too many people are going to see it, or that too many people have particularly enjoyed it, so that's not what I'm going to be covering. I'm sorry if any of you were looking forward to me giving a review on it. But on this episode, we are going to go ahead and jump into talking about Beacon 23. Now, there are only 2 episodes that are out. I am not sure, just because of my level of frustration with this television show so far, I am not sure that I can talk about it too much without giving away spoilers. So this will probably be a spoiler review. So if you have any desire to watch Beacon 23, I would pause this, go watch, and then come back and talk about it with me. So for Beacon 23, this is the new television series. It's kind of like a sci-fi thriller starring Lena Headey and Stephen James. And the premise of this show, as far as I can tell, again, there are only 2 episodes out. I've watched both. This show is supposed to be an 8-episode run. It is sci-fi, like I mentioned, and the whole premise so far of what I can gather is that they are it's far into the future. They have set up these things called beacons, which are essentially outer space lighthouses. So if you are a ship that's out in space doing a particular, let's say, destination run from one solar system to another, the beacon will kind of alert you as to whether or not the path is safe to travel through or not safe to travel through. And it does it through either kind of the bluish light or a red light to say, no, you should not pass. So at the very beginning of this episode, there is a ship called the Crest that is kind of passing through the area of Beacon 23. And there's some issues happening where the beacon cannot tell the Crest that the way is not safe. So essentially what happens is the Crest just explodes. Like it just blows to smithereens, and you are told that it's from dark matter, but it never, so far at least in the 2 episodes, explains what that is. When the ship explodes, the only thing that survives is the stasis pod that Lena Headey was in. Now, at the beginning of the episode, when you are hearing from the Crest, like what I'm assuming is the captain of the Crest, it sounds to me as though the Crest was going to just completely blast by this beacon. But then when Lena Headey comes out of her stasis pod, she tells the guy, Halen, that was her destination. Her destination was Beacon 23 because of these rock specimens that the station master essentially had found somewhere. So that right out of the gate told me that probably the storytelling is going to be a little bit wonky. And it stays that way for the whole rest of it. When she wakes up, he tells her, your ship has exploded. Everyone is dead, like all the other crew. You're the only one who survived it. And her reaction to this is just dead face, like not shocked, not concerned. She's just staring at this window at the leftover debris of the ship she was on. And she's like, okay, well, I need these specimens. That's my job. Like, you need to give me this stuff. Like, it was such a strange Like the first 2 episodes to me, even though there are 8 episodes, it sort of felt like there should have been more content or more to it, or like they cut out parts of the story that were sort of vital to you understanding why these characters were reacting the way that they do. And one of my biggest sort of dislikes, I guess, of the show is that there is no part of the story that connects you to any of these characters whatsoever. Like the character of Halen, who is sort of the beacon master, Lena Headey discovers pretty early on that he is not the beacon master. He is from the military, but he's obviously AWOL from the military, and that he has killed the previous beacon master. And you would assume, as a rational human being, that if you were alone in outer space on a beacon with no help coming for like a considerable amount of time, that if you were in a position of authority, you would want to lock him up somewhere and like never let him out. And Lena Headey does precisely the opposite. Like she puts him in the airlock and locks him in there some of the time, but she continuously just keeps going back, keeps opening the doors, gives him food, gives him medication, lets him out. Like, it doesn't seem like she is at all concerned or acting in the way that a regular person would. And then when you get into episode 2, there are like space pirates, space bandits. I don't know what they are. They don't last long. It's like 1 episode. And I think it's supposed to be, you know, like this upturn in action, this thrilling moment. None of it really was, because none of these characters, like other than stealing shit, it didn't really give you any other reason why they were there at that particular time, how they got out there, how they knew that there was a ship to salvage. Like, it doesn't explain any of that. And that's kind of why I say it sort of seems like there's more to the story that they just condensed down for reasons that they don't really tell you why it's been condensed down. But these space pirates come on board, and you find out that Halen, while in the military, received all of these, I don't know, artificial parts, essentially. So he's kind of become a weapon. And the second episode spends a fair few minutes with Lena Headey and the Halen character charging him up because he is essentially a weapon with these extra parts. But then he doesn't really do anything at all that seems like overly cool or fun, or that would warrant him having to have like charged himself up, you know? Like, he doesn't have any special abilities. He doesn't have any like mechanical parts. Like, there is no like mechanical gun or something that comes out of his arm. Like, there's nothing cool that happens, and he almost instantly gets knocked out. like he kills a couple of people and then is just out of the game, and Lena Headey just has to do the rest of the stuff. So it just left me sort of sitting there going, well, why did we waste the time charging him up if he can't really do anything, and he's just as vulnerable as he would have been prior to that charge up, you know? Like, there's just so many things in this that I feel like the pieces are there. Like, I really am interested in a new sci-fi show, something that's like cool, and Beacon 23 was one of those things where I was like, ooh, it was going to be fun. Like, it's going to be like a psychological thriller. But there's so much stuff missing that I'm like, well, there are 6 more episodes, and I don't know if I care enough to watch the remaining 6 of the episodes, because it sort of seems like the story has almost entirely written itself, or like told you everything that could possibly happen. Like, she's found everything she needs to. She knows essentially who this guy is and doesn't seem to care. And then her help is coming. So like, how many more episodes can you possibly stretch that out? I don't know. And it seems like the parts in the storytelling that you would have written in to connect the audience with the characters are completely missing. So if you are to enjoy this television series, it'll be on kind of the scenery and sci-fi elements of it alone, without really having that much connection with the characters that are involved in it. And for me, kind of that character connection is what drives storytelling. So I don't know that Beacon 23 is much of a win for me. You guys are definitely going to have to let me know what you think of this one. And if you would want me to continue reviewing this show, like with the later episodes, because I will if you guys are interested in it, but I won't if you guys are not so excited about this one. So let me know what you guys think of Beacon 23 if you've watched it. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.